We've got to figure out how to fail. We got to know what to do after we fail. And we have to keep moving forward to accept the challenge in a positive way and continue to grow and grind and do what you're capable of doing.
Seeing the best in everyone. He does that as a coach. I do that in the work that I do. And I think that creates possibilities, right? That creates hope for people.
We are trying to help youth get through the struggle of being a youth.
Welcome back to the Lost and Found podcast. On today's program, you're going to hear from a dynamic duo, a hitting coach and a therapist that have come together and have created their own business, Crow River Comprehensive Hitting Clinics in Lester Prairie, Minnesota. When you tune in today, you're going to hear the passion, the drive, and the focus that they have behind their business, how they're impacting lives and building community. Enjoy. Welcome back to the Lost and Found podcast. We are very excited to be here today. And today we have a very special treat for you with our guests, a dynamic duo, Beth and Darryl, who are owners of Crow River Comprehensive Hitting. And today is a little bit different for us because myself, Gina, I'm the community manager for Startup and I get to host this podcast. So I'm very excited about stepping in and I'm very excited to be able to do this with Beth and Darryl. So welcome, you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys, when we met at boot camp, it was a really cool experience, and we're going to get into all of that today. But I just feel like the two of you, you have a spark about you. You can tell that you love your work and that you love this life that you're creating for yourselves too. So at Startup Boot Camp in October, we did our first session via Zoom, had a lot of conversations, got to know each other. And then Saturday, we got to come together for a whole day of workshops and events. And to kind of start this story off, one of the things that stand out to me is I had the unique privilege of holding and seeing close up a World Series baseball ring. So, Darryl, can you tell us how that ring got to boot camp?
When I was with Houston, I was the AAA hitting coach in Fresno for the Astros, and we won the World Series in 2017. And the guys that I had on that team, it was a very special team. These guys they're relentless. They worked together. They were one unit. They played hard, and they would go up to the big leagues and come back down. Some of them would go up and come down, as guys needed days off or if guys in the big leagues were hurt. They would go up and fill in, and they did really well, to keep the Astros rolling, keep them ahead of the league. A lot of them actually went up and scored big runs and got big hits, and a lot of successes went on that year for us in AAA and, of course, for the big league team.
But I think a thing that was different, too, is you had a lot of them in the minor league all the way, from what, double A or A ball to double A, triple A. Sure. And then, yeah.
Sure, yeah. So there was I did know these guys when they were younger, or three or 4 years before I got them back in triple A. So I knew these guys very well, and we all had a great relationship. And, that's a huge part of any sports, is that relationship piece of it.
Absolutely. And I think that is really huge. And that is kind of what came out like in our boot camp that we had together, is this relationship that the two of you have, and how important your relationships are to your athletes and the people around you as well. So when you are speaking about relationships, I think, Beth, when we had first met too, you kind of shared that you have a passion or a love of refurbishing. And even with your work, I think that you're a person who sees beauty in everything. Can you tell us a little bit about your refurbishing work and the work that you did inside of Crow River Comprehensive Hitting?
Well, my profession is a licensed marriage and family therapist. My area of specialty is trauma. When I'm seeing people, whether it would be, out in the public or in my office, my belief is everyone has a genius, and it's a matter of figuring out what that is, helping them to see what their genius is. And so that's a lot of what I do in that work. It's also what I do when you talk about, furniture like this house, this backdrop you're looking at. When we bought it, this was some of it was sheetrock, some of it just had holes in it. And, I can remember when people were looking at it, our kids went, "Are you sure you want that house?" It's kind of a mess because the people who owned it before had moved out in like August, and we bought this in January. And so I think for me, like you said, I always see the beauty. I'm like, oh no, it's going to be great. You wait and see, it's going to be great. And then same thing with the building, that office that we have is, I had a plan up here. He always follows the plan, so it works well. And that's what happened. We just create. You have to trust the process. I'm not somebody who I kind of go by the seat of my pants, or like I said, it's up here. But often the person who's with me has to just come along with that because it's being created kind of in the moment.
Well, and that is not always an easy thing to do. And when you're saying that, you just sparked a reminder of me. We had a podcast not that long ago with Corpy Coffee, and they said, starting a business is kind of like taking that leap of faith, jumping off a cliff over and over again. Like you just kind of keep moving forward. So why don't you guys, you took a leap of faith. You kind of jumped off this cliff into your house and into Lester Prairie. Tell me about how that all started and where that first leap was and how it led you to where you are right now.
Years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago, there was a gentleman in Rochester who owned some property and he had 3 sons. And they all played baseball. 4 sons, they all played baseball. So he decided he was going to build a shed and put batting cages in it. And so he did it. And one day he came down there. There was 5 of his son's friends in there. And then the next time he came, he said there was 10. And the next time there were 20 guys in there. And he says, you know what? I'm going to open a business. I'm going to open a batting cage. And he did it and became pretty successful. He did not set out to do this. This was something that just happened by all the kids just showing up. Word, it traveled from friend to friend, and it just kept building for him. And he decided just to open a business. So we wanted to get out of the city anyway, and we were looking for property, and we found this property here in Lester Prairie. Believe it or not, it was the first house I looked at, and we went away from it. We just passed it up, and then it came back around. Just a long process. We got to the point where it was almost time for me to go back to spring training. And it was crunch time, and this house popped up again, and sure enough, we decided to jump on it. The price was right, and she saw a vision. I wasn't so sure what that vision was, but I did see the property, and I knew that we would be able to build on it eventually. It all happened much quicker than we anticipated, which was awesome. We got the building up, and here we are. It's
super functional, but also like just the interior of it. If you go on your guys' website, the Crow River Comprehensive Hitting Clinics, your waiting area is beautiful. Beth has done a lot of work there. There's windows so you can see into like the batting cages and the different workout areas that you have. And even on your Facebook page, you've been showing some videos of the work that you've been doing inside. So it's a very unique business. It's a really cool business. And you kind of touched on that you were getting ready to go back to spring training when you decided to move out of the cities and start something new. So what led you from leaving your past career as a hitting coach into moving to this entrepreneur adventure?
Well, it was getting close to retirement. I've been in the game for a very long time, 36 years or 37 years. And the travel got hard for me, and I was just tired of being gone for 7 months out of the year. I really couldn't enjoy home because by the time I was settled in, it was almost time to go. So it was like, this is getting pretty old. And I just decided, and we decided, I should say, that it was that time. And I enjoyed coaching. I was asked a question once, where would you want to be in your career? Would you want to be at the very top and in charge of everything, or would you want to be in the middle, or would you be down at the very beginning? And I began to think, and I said I could not be the middleman. I that's not my role. That's not for me. Either I'm going to be the guy in charge, or I'm going to be the guy at the very beginning when these kids come in, when I can catch them before they're set in their ways. I decided I could have it both ways. I could be in charge and I could be at the very beginning. So it worked out perfectly. You know, this is just something that was for me. And here we are, and I'm excited for the opportunity. And so far, it's been pretty good.
That's awesome. And I know when I came and I visited your facilities too, you had mentioned to me that somebody had said to you, you know, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And I thought it was really neat what your response. You said, I see myself coaching. Like I love doing this. Like I love working with athletes and I love teaching and the training and the progress. And it just so fits you and this mission and the business that you guys are creating together. I think it's kind of serendipitous, right? When businesses go through the boot camp process, I think that a lot of times when they come into it or before they get started, oftentimes they're new businesses, and that process of opening a new business and first getting started, it can feel so muddled because it's not always your passion that you're getting wrapped up into. There's so many other pieces to it that kind of feel like they're draining you, right? Like you're just putting one foot in front of the other to keep it moving. It's hard. That's because it's not why you are doing what you're doing. And then you get a chance to come to boot camp and you sit down and you really focus on why are you doing this and where is the passion for it? So if you wouldn't mind that moment of clarity that you had in boot camp, or like that time that you had to focus on your passion, what did that create for you, or why did you find?
Well, I think the moment for us was when you all, you know, and Betsy talked about, you know, what's your we statement, right? Or what's the why? What's the why? Right. Why do you do what you're doing? You know, and we said, we believe everyone has a right to express themselves through sports and feel safe about it. And so then we came up with, you know, a couple, I think every time when you post a video or we're talking to people, we talk about unleash your inner athlete, unleash your inner story. Because I think one of the things we've run into kind of in small town community is, you know, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of need out there. And sometimes, too, there's need where I don't think people see it, like how important sports are a facility. You know, everybody thinks, okay, you know, of that super athlete who just needs to practice their baseball. Whereas a lot of times it's really about, you know, mindset and building, you know, a positive mindset. It's about building self-confidence in these kids. It's about helping kids. One of the things I see a lot, you know, or he'll notice and he'll, you know, tell me, or I'll notice watching kids, is the anxiety, you know, that comes with just in today's age. And right now, the last 2 years with COVID, I know in my practice, it increases anxiety for everybody, but for kids also. And so having a place to come work out, having a place to feel successful. And I think that's something, you know, the feedback that often the parents are sharing with me while he's out there coaching. I'm sitting a lot of times in the office talking to the parents because, like you said, we have those windows they can see. They're always saying, man, you know, the kids just love him. Like they'll get done and go, when do we come back? You know, when do we do this again? Because they're having fun at something. And I see a lot of kids will start out and they'll come in and kind of be really quiet and, you know, looking around and unsure of themselves. And you've got a parent back there going, stand up straight, or you need to hold the bat like this, or you know, do that. And I tell him, why don't you come in here for a minute? In other words, you need to be quiet. Let him do his work. And I think that's, you know, the big thing is really kind of working together for kids, because we see it as you're building them from the outside, but you're also building them from the inside. Because I think what kids lack a lot today is confidence in themselves, you know, self-esteem, and just having a positive mindset, really that belief that I can accomplish anything I think. And that feedback. It's one of the things we talk about. Critical feedback is not personal. It's something to help you grow. But often we don't teach that to our kids. Kids hear something and they take it personal and think, oh, I'm terrible at this, or I'm really bad. I'm never going to be any good. And it's like, no, we always talk about failure is where you want to go. You want to fail because failure is about success. If I can fail at something, the only way I have to go is up and to succeed.
This is where the magic happens between you two and the clinic that you are building. I mean, you can just hear it when both of you talk about this passion you have for your athletes, for these students to come in and to feel safe expressing themselves through sport, to unleash their inner athlete, unleash their inner stories. Like, yeah, you're a hitting clinic, but you're so much more than a hitting clinic, right? It's not always about the number of kids that are coming in and out of your door. It's about the impact that you're making. And you can hear it when you guys talk about it. And it's so cool and it's so refreshing and it's so, I don't know, it kind of just gives you like a hope or like, yes, you guys can do this. You're helping these kids. So what is it like when they come in? You kind of touched on it, Beth, but what is it like when they come in and they get to work with you, Darryl? I mean, I know that they can do like a one-time training or a multitude of trainings. Like when you see somebody come in and progress and change, what are you seeing in these young athletes?
You know what? It's amazing. I don't talk about mechanics because mechanics for kids it's too broad. I mean, I like to speak on body movements. How is your body moving? What do you need to do to get these ounces around? It's not about pounds. It's about ounces. These are quick, short movements that we have to learn. And this is something that is not taught. And I mean, I've been a professional for 36 years and I have never heard anyone talk about body movement, but that was always something that I talked about. And kids seem to pick up on that more so than mechanics. Mechanics, like I say, it's so broad. It's wide open. Mechanics could be anything. But body movements, we pinpoint those body movements. And, I've got this one kid, he's 10 years old, and he started out, and I'm thinking, wow, you got a long ways to go, but sure enough, this kid, he learned how to make a certain move with a heavy ball, an 8-pound ball. He learned how to put it on his hip, load his hip and rotate. And it taught him how to swing a bat, and this kid has really taken off. He was in last night and I videoed him because he was doing so well, working with his dad. He has a membership, so he comes in and I give him a program, and it's something that he has to follow every time he comes in. And he was working with his dad, and I threw a new program in there for him, and it's called Deep Tee, where I sit the tee back on his back leg, and he's got to drive the ball the other way. And this kid was doing it so well. He started off a little rough, but he figured it out. He figured out how to move his body. He did not figure out the mechanics of it. He figured out what he needed to do to put his body in position to hit this ball. And he started doing it. So I said, I got to video this. This is unbelievable. And sure enough, I ended up putting it on Facebook. I did it.
but I think more important about that story is, so like you said, he was coming. And I will tell you, by the fourth time, so I was there the first time. By the fourth time, I looked at him and I go, wow, this kid is really doing well. Well, fast forward maybe another 3 more times, so a total of 7, maybe 8 times. His mama came in with him, and she hadn't been there. She hadn't been there with him. The dad had always been coming. She was at the lesson, and her mouth dropped, and she goes, oh, my God, like, he's really doing this. He has really gotten really good. I mean, she was so excited because she's very focused, and she's actually an athlete also. So it was kind of cool to see that without saying anything, she could see the difference. And I think that's what we both, go after, is that it's not so much you have to even, a lot of times on other places or training facilities, they're always talking about the difference. They're always talking about the change. I think it's more fun to watch parents notice the difference, or the kids come in feeling like, I got this. Like they'll come in and tell them, yeah, I know what to do. And they'll go through their drills and start hitting. And you can tell they just feel good about what they're doing because they know they've got it. They understand their body, and how it works and their mindset. Yeah.
I kind of force them to take ownership of what they're doing. I challenge them, all of them. They all are challenged because when we play this game is based on failure. If you succeed 3 out of 10 times, you're really good. If you're failing 7 times, out of 10 times, we've got to figure out how to fail. We got to know what to do after we fail, and we have to keep moving forward. So I challenge them a lot, and I force them to fail. I make it so hard for them that it's a challenge. It's not something that they're going to practice. Practice shouldn't be easy. Practice should be a challenge, especially in this particular sport. Because when that pitcher's up there throwing the ball, he's trying to get you out. So if we practice hitting and doing well all the time, when do you get a chance to practice failing? You practice failing in the game, and that's what we don't want. We want you to succeed in the game, so we like to make practice harder. Of course, we make it fun. We like to keep it fun. We like to keep it light, but at the same time, there's going to be a challenge, and you're going to remember, hey, when I go back, he's going to challenge me again, so I got to be ready. And it plays on your psyche a little bit, and it forces you to accept the challenge in a positive way, and continue to grow and grind and do what you're capable of doing. Stand within yourself and not trying to do too much.
And what an incredible life lesson. That is so powerful, because you're right. Like, you guys are creating this space where these kids are feeling safe. And when you feel safe enough to fail, like, you can really exceed too and celebrate those successes. And just the way that you guys are doing that, I think, is so neat. And it's a unique opportunity that I think a lot of times kids don't always have. So you're pushing them, but they want to be pushed with you. And that's just the environment that you guys have created and that you're striving for, which I think is so cool. Darryl, you brought me back to a place when I heard you, kind of explaining this, but when we were in boot camp too, I think there was a bit of a light bulb moment on the day that we were all together. You had previously kind of told us about your dad and how he was a coach. And then on Saturday, you kind of had a moment of like, hey, wait a minute, maybe that's why I'm doing what I'm doing here. But how did that connection of your experience with your father and what you're doing now, can you tell us a little bit about that connection and maybe how it's driven you?
I was coaching one day professionally, and I was like, dang, I just sounded like my dad right there. And it was just him coaching me from the time I remember the first day he took me up to Fernwood Park in Chicago to get on the baseball team. I was 8 years old, and all the other kids were probably 10, 11, 12. They were all much older and much bigger, and they threw me out in the right field somewhere. And, I played the game. I was always pretty good. I was always around the game. My brothers played. I was always around. So I was always interested in it. But just being around him, going to the park in the summertime with him just about every day, and just listening to the things he said and accepting the coaching and listen to the kids talk about him and how he was. A lot of the kids' dads weren't there. They weren't coming to the games, and the moms they weren't coming. And, my dad was always there. So they kind of looked to him as a father figure, and I thought it was really, really cool that the kids could look up to him like that and accept him. And he was pretty hard on us. We were talking about that the other day. He was pretty tough on us, but it was in a good way. He was trying to get the most out of us. He saw something in us, and he wanted to get the most out. And it drove us to work a little bit harder and be a little bit better, without knowing what we were doing. Just out there playing the game and working and trying to figure things out and accepting the failures and succeeding when we could. And the small successes are what we were after. We weren't after the large, the big, huge successes. We just wanted the little successes, get a little bit better every day is all we were really looking for. And I kind of, I took all of that from him and, kind of learned my own coaching style as I went along and put my own twist on it. And of course, I'm not as hard on people as he was. But at times, sometimes you have to get your point across. And some kids need a kick in the rear, and some need a pat on the back, and some need, to be hugged a little bit and showed a little tough love, and, all those different things. And we as coaches have to figure that out. What does this kid need? And we need to figure that out quickly. And that's how I go about my coaching. I treat them all as individuals. I don't treat them the same. People always say, treat everybody the same. Well, no, you don't treat everybody the same. You treat everyone fairly, and you pick and choose who you can be a little tougher on and who you can't. You want to be able to get the most out of all of them any way you possibly can.
Right. And that's the recipe for success. Even like you were saying with your father, like you felt safe to fail and you celebrated the small successes. And I think that with you guys and creating your why, feel safe to express yourself in sport. That's the environment you're creating now. And you're helping these kids be okay with failures and really celebrating their successes. And that's what's keeping them coming back to continue growing and learning with you. I mean, I think that you're offering a lot in a unique setting, and it's working. Another part of the why that you guys have created, like in all of this story, so this feel safe expressing yourself in sport, unleash your inner athlete, unleash your story. How did discovering your why impact the business that you had just built?
I think, for me, or, when we talked about it, I mean, I think that was another kind of aha moment at the boot camp. Is it really just brought things full circle. Because, I mean, when you, like you said, when you listen to the statement, it really encompasses kind of our philosophy, of life or with kids, or even, it's really about, like I said, seeing the best in everyone. He does that as a coach. I do that in the work that I do. And I think that creates possibilities, right? That creates hope for people, because we're in a time right now of so much uncertainty. And I know as a therapist, uncertainty is what creates anxiety for people. And so when you're in a place, and even when they come in and they're not sure, like we've had, he does both baseball and fast pitch. So a lot of girls coming in too, and they have a great time. We had a couple little gals who really inspired us to start a scholarship fund, because we had somebody had brought it to our attention. There was a family in need, a family that had lost their dad, that had been really recent. And, right away, both our thought was, wow, how cool would it be if they could just come in, after a big loss like that, that's really hard, have something just fun to focus on. And, they came, we invited them to a couple camps. We just said, don't worry about it. And they had such a good time. It was so cute. When they were leaving, he has some of his baseball cards on the counter, and they're like his coaching cards, his baseball, like as a coach. And then, the business cards. And the one little girl, she picked up the card and she looked at me, and then she looked at her mom and she goes, he can be the first boy on my wall. She's got a little wall with little pictures. And I thought that was so cute. She's about 8 years old. And she's like, he could be the first boy on my wall. And I thought that was so cute, because they had such a good time. And it just goes back to feeling safe in an environment when, their whole world was turned upside down. And it just goes to show that, you can come into a facility, even if you haven't played. They picked up on it. It happened to be a camp we had, going to battle camp. And so it was four different times, I think, or something like that. Sometimes we run it 2, sometimes we run it, 4 or 5 sessions. And boy, by the end, they were just all smiles, and they would come in and be like so excited to, start doing that. So I think, like I said, that statement of feeling safe to express yourself, of unleashing your inner story, it kind of all happens, naturally. I don't know, for us, it kind of happens naturally.
I'm so glad that you shared that story. I think that that's so neat, and it's such a cool reach that you guys have. I mean, hearing you guys talk about it, you can hear the passion and you can hear that value behind it. And it's so motivating because your why and that value you have in your athletes and creating this safe space is it's what's going to continue fueling you forward. You're young in your business, and this is just such a huge driver for you, and I can see it working for such a long time. Like, there's so much growth that's going to happen here. How long have you owned Crow River Comprehensive Hitting Clinics?
We opened in October. We were actually trying to be open in June, and that didn't work out. We couldn't get power to the building. Excel was behind because of COVID, and they had lost a lot of employees, and the whole COVID thing. Everything is behind. So we didn't open until October, and October is the slow months. Kids are now done with baseball and they're going into football, and basketball is coming, and so it was really, really slow at that time. And we did some camps and some clinics. We had some open hittings and things like that, just to spark some interest, really. And I think we did pretty good. It was a learning process. It was probably really good we did not open in June, because there's some things that you need to figure out when you start a business. You just don't jump in and have 100 people coming in daily, and because then you're in trouble. So by us starting a little slower, I think that has helped us a lot to give us a chance to see what I needed to do with the cages, and how do we do the scheduling and the payments and all these different things that, you don't even pay attention. You don't even think about.
The website, figuring out the website, that's still a growing process, learning how to, update it. And we're going to go in for training so that we can kind of have hands-on with it. Because what we've realized is sometimes we'll think, oh my God, we need to put this out there. We need to make a change. And it's too much to, the gentleman who does it, he's got another job, it's just one website he's managing. And so it's often hard to get it updated when we want it to be updated. So, that's been a learning process, because that's not the area that either of us love. Is managing, well, for instance, even QuickBooks, which, Swift has been great about having someone tutor us with that, because that's certainly not my area of expertise. Not at all.
So it's been a challenge. It's been fun. It's been some sleepless nights. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and say, we need to do this. And she'll look at me like, what? So it's been fun at the same time. Very, very challenging. And we're getting along pretty good, I think.
I'll laugh. Sometimes 15 minutes. It happened the other day. 15 minutes before a session. Can you just write this? Can you just get this? Get this tweet out or do this? And I'm thinking, oh my God. Okay, let me just put it together. Okay, it's got to go. This is how it's going to go out.
Well, and this is what makes you great entrepreneurs. You're adaptable. You've got high energy. You're willing to put in the work. You've got grit. You've got passion for it. And I think you're right. Those details and the building the foundation, I think it takes so much time and so much energy from you. So when you can take some energy back and to focus it on your passions, it's a good balance to have you keep moving forward. If you just had to do one or just had to do the other, it just doesn't work as well. So we also have a reinvention program, and a lot of businesses will go through it when they're maybe a few years into their business and they want to reinvent or respark or try new ideas and kind of reevaluate the business that they have. And one of the questions that we ask them at the end is what are you building? So Crow River Comprehensive Hitting Clinics, what are you building?
In the bigger scheme of things, we're building community. I mean, we continue to build community, because I think you can't come into a small town and, small town atmosphere. And here that we're finding, there really is a love of baseball on a lot of levels. I mean, even like hometown ball. And starting, like I said, these young kids, I don't think when we first started this, the vision was we would have that our bread and butter would be all these really young kids. And, that's something we just kind of landed on and discovered through, these were the ones who were right away interested. Because like you said, when we opened, those older kids were already in the next sport, football season and then basketball season. And so it's the younger kids who were like, hey, we're here, and they were excited. And so to me, I think we continued to build not only this facility, but we're building, community. And I know he's always got ideas, and he's got ideas of even a bigger facility. And I think, in the boot camp, he came up with, the original name or the parent name under Crow River Comprehensive Hitting is We Sport. And, I think that encompasses that idea of we as community, you could see it, we as all the different sports, but at some point, possibly having even a bigger facility, outgrowing this space at some point.
Well, I think that sounds like a great plan. I mean, you can just see so many elements and so many pieces to it, which is really neat. You're setting yourself up for success. And that was going to be one of my next questions. Like, how are you positioning yourselves now for success?
Yeah, but like Beth just said, community, that's what it's all about, and it was so awesome when we were at boot camp, and I slipped up and said We Sport. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
I was supposed to say Crow River, and I said We Sport, and you were like, We Sport? Well, I like that, And so I had all of these T-shirts, and we decided to start giving those T-shirts out, And so we were giveaways, and people love them, And it was the logo wasn't exactly what we wanted, but it's a free T-shirt. It's kind of what everybody was saying. People like free. So we started giving them out, and kids would come into the facility and they would say, "Hey, so and so had on your T-shirt, or this kid had on your T-shirt, and do you know this kid, and do you know that kid?" And I'm thinking to myself, "Wow." Unbelievable, and these were kids from Howard Lake and kids from Waconia, and just it was awesome to hear
Norwood,
that.
Young America,
yep. Norwood, yep. So
Watertown.
I mean, it was, and now we're going to try to bring all of that together, where we will eventually have a larger facility where we can open up to. We will have baseball, softball, basketball training, football training, even soccer, maybe kickboxing, all of these things in a where you could really, really unleash your inner athlete, unleash your inner story, and continue to build. Once again, community. For me, kids need an outlet. We can't always just go to school and be in the books all the time. And, you need to let some of that out a little bit just to get a chance to express yourself. I look in the inner cities and I'm sure they have programs, but I know they don't have programs like our programs. And, I just want it to be known that we are trying to help youth get through the struggle of being a youth, because it's hard. It is so hard for kids to just figure out this daily grind of life. It's tough. And if they can express themselves doing something they enjoy doing or something they love doing, it's going to help them tremendously. And it's going to help them get through the day a lot better. They can be in school and they could be struggling in school, but they know after school, I have this program that I'm going to tonight. And that, I know it got me through. And I want to continue that for other kids, just to let them know that, hey, there's something else out here. And it's a way for you to unleash and just be who you want to be and who you enjoy being, and emulate your idols and do the things that they like to do. And, I think it's awesome. And I'm getting goosebumps talking about
Absolutely.
it right now. And it's I'm very happy to be in this position.
Yeah, and I think we also want to, build, like you were saying, even on the clothing line. That's something we want to get into, is have people. We know that, when people are all about baseball, having, the apparel and having, shirts that have our logo, but also shirts that just have, a lot of statements about life. I think we find a lot of quotes at baseball, with baseball and life that kind of go together. So doing some of that too, in there.
I love hearing the passion and the drive that you guys have behind it. It's just it's so awesome. It's so cool. And I think that the community that you're building, you are building something special. And I think that your vision even for the future is you're so on point with with your why and this value you have behind it. Like there's just so, where the road is going to lead you. I'm so excited to follow your journey and to see this path that you have ahead of you. And I just think it's really neat that you're making this really cool dent in the universe. Like you're leaving a positive impact and you're helping kids and you're helping athletes and people. And it's super admirable. So great job, you guys.
Thank you.
So one of the ways that we wrap up on this podcast, and I can't believe it's already time to wrap this up, but one of the questions we always ask is, what advice do you have for someone who might be listening who is a new entrepreneur or somebody who's wanting to start a business and become an entrepreneur?
I say go for it. It goes back to if you're passionate about what you do, I don't think you can be anything but successful. It doesn't mean you're going to not have those, like we said, those little failures along the way, but you learn from those failures. And I think also connect with resources. I mean, if anything, we really learned that when we connected with the Southwest Initiative Foundation, for instance. They led us to, Betsy and to you, to the boot camp. And, they have lots of resources because it's not something you can do alone. So it goes back to, again, build your relationships. If you're going to be successful, you have to build on relationships because it takes a village, to create for your dreams to even come true, but stick with it. Stick with it and go for it.
I'm going to piggyback on what Beth said. It's if you want to do something, go and do it. Don't wait. Go for it. Yeah. Do everything you can do to get it done. There's going to be some stumbling blocks along the way. Yes, but that's only building us to where we're trying to go. I can think back on, I believe his name was Mike with the card game.
Oh, yeah.
With the Wizard.
Yep, Wizard and Relics.
Wasn't it Mike?
Yes, it was right? Mike. Yep, Mike Bregel.
Yes. I was sitting thinking about that, and I'm like, wow, Mike, that's incredible. How the research that he had to do. We didn't have to do that much research, and I'm thinking, if you have a goal and you have the mind and you have a vision, the passion to do it, just go ahead and do it. You're going to stumble, like I said, but it's going to be fun along the way. And you're going to look back and say, wow, remember when, and now look. I think, like I say, just go for it. It's tough. It's very tough, but if you have the passion to do it, go and do it.
All right, let's put both of your advice on a huge billboard that is constantly reading that for people because that was so perfect. Go and do it. But like you said, accept the failures, celebrate the successes, and keep moving forward. It's a huge honor to see you again, to have the opportunity to host your podcast. I appreciate you coming in and taking the time out to do this. It was fantastic. And like I said, we're so excited to watch the journey that you guys have ahead of you and to see Crow River Comprehensive Hitting and We Sport grow and build community along the way.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.